Jamb candidates, welcome to today's lesson, and today we are looking at food chains and food web. This is one of the commonly repeated topics by Jamb in Jamb UTME, so please lend me your ear, make your notes as we go. First of all, we have to understand the concepts and understand an example of both food chain and food web. Alright, so food chain. What is food chain? Food chain is a straight sequence of organisms through which energy and nutrients flows, starting from where? From the producers and ending in where? The decomposers. A straight, this linear way here means straight. A straight sequence is straight. I'm telling you the difference now between food chain and food web. So food chain is straight. It's a straight sequence of organisms through which energy is transferred. It's an energy flow, okay? Starting from the producers and ending in decomposers. So food chain starts with what? Producers, ending in decomposers. Is a straight chain, linear chain of energy transfer. So if you are transferring energy, you are transferring nutrients. If you are transferring glucose, for example, you are transferring energy. All right, so that's that. So each organism occupies a specific trophic level. You know what the trophic level is now? An energy level. So each organism occupies a specific energy level. Are they producers? Are they primary producers? Are they primary consumers? Are they secondary consumers? Are they decomposers? All those are trophic levels. Level of energy transfer, level of energy flow. Let's look at food web. All right, but before we look at food web, let's look at food chain. This is a diagram of food chain. We have 3 food chains here. This is the first, is straight, linear, straight. This is the second, straight. This is the third. So the first food chain we have here is tree. Okay, tree is the what? The primary producer. Tree is the what? The primary producer. And from tree, deer. Deer, which is a herbivore, feeds from tree. So energy or nutrient is transferred from the tree to the deer. And what happens in turn? The lion eats the what? The deer. The lion feeds on the deer. So that's the food chain. So the lion feeds, it uses the deer as a source of energy. Okay, it feeds from the deer because lion is a carnivore. Okay, it eats flesh. So when the lion feeds from this deer, the lion then dies and decomposes. Okay, when it decomposes, its energy, the energy in the lion is transferred to the soil as in form of what? Nutrient. So it is that energy that the lion transferred to the soil. The lion dead body transfer enter the soil. Now go come nourish tree where they grow. Another seed will germinate, another tree will grow again. So the chain continues, just like that. That's it, food chain. Another one we have here, the second food chain is flower, which is also a plant. Okay, small fishes feed on those seaweed, all those seaweed with the inside sea, those flowers. Okay, so large fish will chop small fish. You can see the transfer of energy, the transfer of nutrient. So this large fish will chop small fish, like all those larger fish, like tilapia can feed on those small fishes. Okay, then bird like eagle, carnivorous bird. Okay, will come feed on the large fish. You know, this large fish that feeds on small fishes are also carnivorous. Carnivorous fish, okay, feeds on the small fish. While carnivorous bird like eagle feeds on large fish. So how does the energy flow continues? This bird will eventually die one day, and when it dies, all the energy it has accumulated in its body is transferred into the soil because it will rot. Decomposers will call decomposer. Now then food chain the end, decomposers. Okay, so when decomposers decompose and finish, what will happen? It will serve as nutrient again for tree to grow. You see, so we are back to flower now again, from flower to smaller fish. That's it. The next we have here is flower. From flower to flies. Okay, flies feed on flower sap. From flower to flies, then frog will chop fly. If frog chop fly, snake will chop frog. You can see the energy transfer, the nutrients transfer. If snake chop frog, because snake is carnivorous. If he chop frog, then eagle will chop snake because eagle is a higher carnivorous animal, bird at that. So eagle will chop small snake, will chop frog, and eventually that snake is going to die one day. So decomposers are going to act on the snake, and the energy that the decomposers generates through the conversion of the body parts of the dead eagle is going to be transferred into the soil, and plants is going to use this as nutrients to grow again for flies to feed on the sap. Now let's continue and let's understand the concept of food web. What is food web? Food web is a complex. It's complex. Food chain is simple, straightforward, straight. But food web is a complex network of interconnected food chains showing multiple feeding relationship among organisms in an ecosystem. So it's a complex food network, showing the interconnections of different food chains. So food web is like bring food chains together, okay, among organisms in an ecosystem. So it's showing feeding relationship between different food chains. Okay, so we are going to understand what food web is all about, and we are going to see the diagram of food web. It is more realistic than a single food chain because most organisms feed on multiple food sources. That's there are different options for organisms in a food web as compared to food chain. So it's more advanced than food chain. Okay, different options. Okay. Eagle can feed on smaller birds, they can feed on snake, they can even feed on frog. So there are different options. It's not just straight, it is a complex energy flow network. All right, let's look at the diagram of food web. This is the diagram of a food web. You can see eagle as the topmost. You can see that the eagle is just there. So it's the decomposers that is going to act on this eagle when this eagle eventually die and convert the nutrients in the eagle to nutrients that plants can use to grow again, so that the food web can start from this place again. This primary producer phase of the food web. All right, so you can see the food web. Okay, you have different food chains inside. For example, from tree, which is carrots. Okay, rabbit go come chop carrots. Okay, then eagle go come chop rabbit. You can see this one is one food chain. See another one again, another food chain here again. For this food chain, we have more than one options for the tree, which is corn. Okay, because here grasshopper can feed from the tree, corn. Here again, rabbit can still feed from the tree, corn. You can see here, if you look at this place here, grasshopper. Okay, this frog can feed from grasshopper, and this rat can also feed from grasshopper. You can see different options available. Okay, you can see here, snake eats frog, fox eats rat. Okay, and all of them, eagle can feed. See, eagle can eat rabbit, eagle can eat fox, eagle can eat snake, eagle can also eat bird. You can see this one, from tree sap to fly, bird go chop fly, frog fisty chop fly, bird fisty chop fly. Last all of them are secondary consumer, go chop all of them, eagle. Can you see? So it is complex. Integration of different food chains. Okay, food web is better than food chain. Why? Because organisms have more options. Okay, different options to feed from. Okay, like I explained earlier. Now let's look at the key difference between food chain and food web. Okay, you have to understand the differences. Okay, between food chain and food web. All right. On the first column to the extreme end of the left, we have the fishes. Okay, while in the middle column we have food chain, and the last column to the right we have food web. All right. So we want to look at the features of food chain, food web, to understand it in depth. All right. So first of all, the pathway. What's the pathway? The pathway of food chain is single and linear. It is straight. The pathway of food web, it is multiple and it is interconnected. You can see. So food web is complex. So what is their complexity? Food chain is simple, but food web is complex. Realism. What is their realism? Less accurate. Okay, food chain is less accurate, but food web is more accurate. What is their stability? Food chain is less stable because there are not much options to feed on. That's why it's less stable. If one of the organism or one trophy level disappears, the food chain is jeopardized. Okay, therefore food web, it is more stable because there are alternative food sources. Very beautiful. Let's understand what is meant by trophic level. We have about 5 trophic levels. 5 trophic level. On the left side, the extreme of the table, we have the levels, which are about 5, first, second, third, fourth, fifth. In the middle of the table, we have organism type. While on the extreme end to the right of the table, we have examples. All right. So let's take the first trophic level. Trophic level 1. We have what? Organism type, producers. Okay. You can also call them primary producers, or they are producers. Okay. They are autotrophs. They are plants that manufacture food by utilizing energies and other elements such as sunlight and carbon dioxide. Okay, to make food. Also utilizing their chlorophyll too. So what are examples of the primary producers or the producers? We have green plants and the algae. The secondary level or the secondary trophic level is the primary consumers. And what are them primary consumers? They are herbivores. Herbivores, animals that feed only on herbs. Those animals, they include grasshopper and rabbits and so on and so forth. All right. The third trophic level, we have the secondary consumers. But the secondary consumers are like carnivores, and there are levels to these carnivores. Okay, you have carnivores like frog and snake as the secondary consumers. Okay, they are carnivores that feed on smaller organisms, smaller animals. Okay, then for the fourth trophic level, you have the tertiary consumers, which are the top carnivore. Okay, carnivores that feed on bigger animals. Okay, for example, you have hawk, you have lion. Okay, lion can feed on deer, hawk can feed on rabbits. Okay, hawk can feed on smaller birds too. Okay, you also have eagle here. Okay, I think while I was explaining food web, I mistakenly called this lion and this hawk secondary consumers. So I want to quickly correct that right now. Okay, so lions, hawk, eagles, they are not secondary consumers, they are tertiary consumers. All right, while we have the fifth trophic level, which are the decomposers. All right, and the decomposers, what do? They decompose. Okay, they are the one that converts these nutrients back to what plants can use up to grow and develop again to start the trophic level. Okay, so they include bacteria, fungi, and so on and so forth. Those decomposers. Okay, those saprophytes and so on and so forth. All right, now understanding trophic level. What's the definition of trophic level? Trophic level is easy. Trophic level is the levels of energy transfer through nutrients. The levels of energy transfer through nutrients in the ecosystem. The levels of energy transfer through nutrients in the ecosystem. That's trophic level. Now, let's understand energy flow, because Jamb say make we know all these things. They put them for their objective. All right. We have to understand the energy flow. Energy flow. How energy take the work? How does it move? Okay. First, we have to understand that the 10% law. What does this 10% law state? At every trophic level, only 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to another. 90% is lost as heat through respiration, movement, and different metabolic processes. That's it. So at every trophic level, from one trophic level to another, energy is lost. The energy is mainly lost as heat, but it can be lost through various means such as respiration, metabolic process, movement, and so on and so forth. 90% of the energy is lost as heat. Only 10% of the energy is retained and transferred from one trophic level to another successfully. That's the 10% law of energy flow. All right. And we have to understand energy pyramid. What is meant by energy pyramid? Energy pyramid is always upright. Okay. Producers have most energy. Okay. Top carnivores have least energy. So the energy pyramid is like this. Okay. Let me show you the energy pyramid. We have to look at food web to understand the energy pyramid. Okay. Okay. This is a food web. All right. You can see that this food web is like a pyramid, like this, like a triangle, like this. It's a pyramid. Okay. You can see that this eagle. Okay, this eagle as a carnivore has the least energy. Most of the energy is here, the primary producers or the producers here. All these plants, these trees, that's where you have most of the energy. Okay, so as you proceed in the trophic level, energy continues to deplete, because if energy is moved from this primary producer to primary consumers first, 90% is lost as heat through movement, respiration, metabolic process, and all. You can see how the energy is lost as it continues to proceed from one trophic level to another until it gets to the tertiary consumer, which are the carnivores. And here you now have the least energy here, at this point. That's all about the energy pyramid. Let us understand the distribution of organism. We have to understand the distribution of organism. Where are they found? Where are organisms found? What are their niche? We have to understand how organisms are distributed. What favor organisms distribution? We have to understand. Okay, so under the distribution of organisms, food chains and food web explain organism distribution by showing who eats whom. Okay, feeding relationship, that's what this is talking about. Who eats whom? Feeding relationship. Energy availability, it tells us where this organism should be. Okay, is it supposed to be in the part of the primary producers? Is it supposed to be in the part of primary consumers? Is it supposed to be where you have the secondary consumers? That's what tells us where it's supposed to be. Yes, that's what tells us where it's supposed to be. All right, so the second is energy availability at each level. Okay, it limits population size. Okay, this food chain and food web also show organism distribution through interdependence. I am dependent on you. Plants are dependent on decomposers. Okay, primary consumers are dependent on producers. Okay, so secondary consumers are dependent on primary consumers. You can see, so that interdependence, that's what the distribution of organisms show, and what enables this distribution of organisms to show this is the food chain and the food web relationship. All right, so the final one here is the habitat suitability. It determines which organism can survive based on food availability. It determines which organism will survive based on food availability. If there is reduction in the production of let me say plant products, for example, which organism will affect fast, which organism will quick die. Remember, in a food web, there are different, alternatives, okay, for nutrients. So in a food chain, for example, if anything just happened like this, that's the disadvantage of a food chain. If anything just happened to one of the trophic level, the whole food chain don't go. The whole food chain, it don't go, jeopardized. A total system shut down. That's what you get. All right, so that's why food web is always better and healthier than food chain. Let's understand the nutrient cycles. What is the nutrient cycle? The nutrient cycle means the way nutrients moves from one trophic level to another. Okay, from the living part of the ecosystem to the non-living part of the ecosystem. Okay, and also from that non-living part of the ecosystem to the living part of the ecosystem. That's the nutrient cycle. Okay, first of all, we have to look at carbon cycle. Okay, and the carbon cycle is very easy. Okay, photosynthesis occurs, and what happens during photosynthesis? Plants absorb, carbon dioxide and use it to form glucose. So when plant forms glucose, animals use up this glucose that plants form, because animals are going to feed from plants, and when animals respire, okay, when during catabolic process, glucose is broken down and carbon dioxide is released again. And plants can also use this carbon dioxide. You can see how the cycle is going. Plants can use it to form this glucose again. Okay, then from the combustion of fossil fuel, you also get carbon dioxide from combustion of fossil fuel. So you can see the cycle. That's why carbon dioxide not the finish. Carbon dioxide not the finish. Carbon, not the finish for the atmosphere. All right. And what is the percentage of carbon in the atmosphere? What's the percentage of carbon in the atmosphere? Drop it in the comment section. All right. So we have to look at global warming. This is under carbon dioxide. There are about two most common gases that are responsible for global warming. Okay. First of all, you have to understand what global warming means. Okay. Global warming means that the world becomes very hot. Okay. Something that makes the world to become very hot. Global warming high temperature of the earth. When the earth's temperature becomes high, global warming. Okay, and the excess of carbon dioxide traps heat. So when carbon dioxide is excess in the environment, in the earth, it traps heat. Okay, and this leads to what? Global warming. You start getting the melting of the ice glacier. Okay, those places where ice did for the earth. Okay, those ice will go melt, and if those ice melt, it will lead to what? Ocean overflow. What does that in turn lead to? It results in flooding everywhere. Water will flow everywhere. Flooding. That's one of the most common effects of global warming. Let's look at water cycle. Okay, water cycle. Okay, the second one that we are looking at under water cycle. Okay, in the water cycle, it starts. You can either start with percolation or you start with evaporation. But here I will start with evaporation. Okay, because it's a cycle. Okay, from evaporation you go back to what? Percolation. So evaporation, it starts with evaporation, and what happens during evaporation? When water or water vapor escapes into the atmosphere, that is evaporation. It can escape from anywhere. It can escape from water in a liquid form. It can escape when you are boiling water. It can escape from the soil. It can escape from, water can escape. Water can evaporate from everywhere. Okay, provided that the intramolecular force of attraction is greater than the intermolecular force of attraction. The water molecule is going to what? Escape or evaporate. Okay, that's the condition necessary for the evaporation of water molecule. All right, so after evaporation you are going to see something like transpiration. Okay, these are the means by which water is released into the atmosphere through evaporation and transpiration. What transpires? Plants transpires. Okay, transpires. They lose water to the atmosphere, to the environment, and that water lost to the atmosphere or to the environment, it condenses on the cloud level. When it gets to the cloud level, it condenses, and when it condenses, what happens? It condenses and it precipitates. During precipitation, what happens? Hope you know that the cloud you see are large drops of water. Hope you know. Okay, large drops of condensed water vapor. That is cloud. Okay, when you go close to the clouds, you are going to see that there are large drops of condensed water vapor. All right. So when it precipitates, it leads to what? Rain. Rain will come fall. So when rain fall, percolation occurs. What is percolation? Percolation is when water is sunk into the soil, and that water enters the soil. Different layers of the soil, from the porous layer down to the rocky layer, and it goes down, continues to what? To sink into the soil. That's what percolation. And after sinking into the soil, now we go still go dig borehole, pump water come out from there again. If we use water go waiting, evaporate again, enter the atmosphere again. Or plants go waiting, use their roots, tap water from inside the soil. After water don't percolate finish, then plants will transpire. Water will enter the atmosphere again. Then condensation continues again. Precipitation, it rains, and so on and so forth. As easy as that. ABC, that's the circle of water cycle. Okay. Let's look at nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle. Jamb, the set question well. If you look at my file containing the most repeated questions by Jamb, I think you are going to see 2 or 3 questions from this nitrogen cycle each year, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So the nitrogen cycle. Okay. On the left side of the table, close to the extreme end to the left, we have the process. While on the middle of the table, we have bacteria. That's bacteria that are responsible for each stage of the nitrogen cycle. Okay, while on the right hand side, close to the right end of the table, we have the function. The function of that particular stage of the nitrogen cycle. Okay, the first process or the first stage of the nitrogen cycle we have here is the nitrogen fission. I've taught this in chemistry before, but here I want to teach it in depth. Okay, I want to go deeper. All right, so that you can understand it better. If you don't have this note, ensure you send me a DM to get this note. All right, so nitrogen fission is very simple. So when you hear the word nitrogen fission, what enter your mind? What is the meaning of fission? Fission is like fusion. Okay, fuse nitrogen to form something. Okay, something fuses nitrogen together to form something. All right, so the bacteria that is responsible for the fission of nitrogen is the rhizobium bacteria. And where are they found? They are found in the roots of leguminous what? In the roots of leguminous plants, or in the roots of legumes. Okay, rhizobium bacteria. So Jamb can ask you which organism is responsible for nitrogen fission. Rhizobium bacteria is the answer. All right, so what does the rhizobium bacteria do? They do what? They convert nitrogen, or they fuse nitrogen gas to form ammonia. They convert nitrogen to what? Ammonia. That's their function. Then the second phase or the second stage of the nitrogen cycle is the nitrification. Nitrification. That's converting this ammonia formed during nitrogen fission. The ammonia form is converted to what? Nitrates. So ammonia is converted to nitrates. What bacteria or what organism is responsible for the conversion of ammonia to nitrates during nitrogen cycle? Is the nitrosomonas or the nitrobacter. 2 of them. Nitrosomas or nitrobacter. Nitrosomonas or nitrobacter, both of them. And what do? They do what? They convert ammonia, this ammonia formed during nitrogen fission, they convert it to what? To nitrite. Then from nitrite is converted to what? Nitrate. So from ammonia to nitrate. That's what they do. All right. Then after this, we enter the next phase, which is called denitrification. That's denitrification. That's the decomposition of that nitrate formed. Okay. So this is done by what? Pseudomonas. And Pseudomonas are a kind of microorganism, okay, bacteria that converts nitrates to what? To nitrogen. They convert nitrates back to what? Free nitrogen. Okay? And after that, that takes us to ammonification. Ammonification. And what happens during ammonification? Organic matter are converted to ammonia. Organic matter are converted to ammonia. That's what happened during nitrification. That's what happened during ammonification. What organism or what kind of bacteria converts this organic matter to ammonia? It is converted by saprophytes, saprophytic bacteria. Okay, saprophytic bacteria, they dissolve organic matter. They dissolve those organic matters to form ammonia. Okay, and this ammonia can be acted upon by what? By what? Nitrifying bacteria again to form nitrates. Okay, just like that. That's how the cycle continues to go. The cycle continues to go. The cycle continues to go. And so that's nitrogen cycle for you. Natural habitats. Jamb said we should be conversant with natural habitats. Okay, the table here, the table you have on the screen has 3 columns. Okay, the first column to the left is habitat. The middle column is organism presence. Then the last column to the right of the table is adaptation. So for the habitats, let's quickly list all the habitats. We have ponds, we have streams, we have lake, we have seashores, we have mangrove, we have treetop, we have savanna, and we have buru. All these are habitats. Okay, we have to know the organisms that are present in this habitat and their adaptation. What makes them to be able to live in that habitat? Why are they capable of living in such habitats? What features do they possess that enable them live successfully, tremendously, okay, thrive in such habitats? That's all about the adaptation. Let's take the first. The first we have there is pond. Okay, pond. You know the pond habitat now, pond. Okay, pond. So what organisms are present in pond? We have the tadpoles and we have the water lily. What is that structure that makes them adapt to that pond? Why are they able to live in ponds? Buoyancy. Because of buoyancy, they have web feet. Water lily has air feed cortical. That gives them this buoyancy, that makes them float on water. They can float. They can just remain on the water top. Okay, they remain on the water top there. They don't what? So the tadpoles possess webbed feet. That webbed feet is what they use to swim inside the pod, and also soft inside the pod for for organisms to feed on. Okay, all those small organisms they feed on. So that's their adaptive feature for the pond. The next is the streams. Okay, you know that the stream contain fresher and cleaner water as compared to ponds. All right, so the streams, you have organisms like trouts present in it, and you also have mayflies. And why are they adapted towards the streams? Why can they survive there? Because they have streamlined body. What's the meaning of streamline? Streamline means that the body is smooth, okay, to reduce friction. So they can easily swim in streams, okay? They can easily swim, all right? So the lake is another habitat. And what organisms are found in the lake? We have some fish, some types of fish found in the lake. You also have the plankton, okay? What is the most popular lake in Nigeria? The most popular lake in Nigeria, if not the only lake you have in Nigeria. There's one lake in Anambra State, Nigeria. It's called Agulu Lake. That is the most popular lake. I think it should be the most popular lake in Africa. Okay, Agulu Lake. So what do the fish and the plankton found in these lakes, what do they possess that make them to be able to live in that lake? They have swimming bladders. Swimming bladders is just like air feed bladder that enables organisms to stay afloat. Okay, swimming bladders. Okay, they have swimming bladders. They also have gills that enable them what? Breathe inside the water. They enable them respire inside the lakes. All right. We also have seashores. So from here to here now, from ponds to seashores is the aquatic habitat. Okay, they are classified under the aquatic habitat: pond, stream, lake, seashores. Okay, so the 4 of them are aquatic habitats. Okay, so in the seashores we have organisms such as crab, barnacle, we have clam. Okay, we have clam too. Okay, so what is that feature that makes them adapt to seashores? Is the hard shell that they possess. Clam has hard shells, barnacles have hard shells, crabs have hard shells too. So these hard shells make them adapt to the seashore because there are organisms in the seashore that easily feed on other organisms. They are carnivorous. So because they possess shells, they have shells covering them as exoskeleton. It helps them, it protects them from their prey. Okay, it protects them from carnivorous animals found in the seashores from feeding from them. Okay, so that they don't shop them, so that they will not be used as food by carnivores in the seashores. All right. The next we have under the terrestrial. So we just have 3 under the terrestrial. We have mangrove, we have savanna, then we have buru. 3 of them are for the terrestrial. Why for the arboreal? Okay, that's air. Okay, animals so you see now air that is stay. The air habitats. We have treetops. Okay, let's look at the terrestrial before we look at the arboreal. Okay, the terrestrial we have mangrove here, and you know how mangrove they be now. You have the mud skippers. Mangrove now mud, swamp. Okay, swampy area. You have the mud skippers. That's the organism you have there. What is the adaptation to the swamp or the mangrove? They have breathing roots. Okay, breathing roots, because in the swamp you can't breathe. It is that root that enables them to breathe. Pneumatophores. Okay, pneumatophores enables them to breathe. It's a breathing root. Okay, still under the terrestrial we have the savanna. Okay, and in the savanna habitat you have the lions and you have the zebras there. Okay, what do the lions and the zebras possess to be able to live in the savannah. You know the savannah, they dry well. That place they dry. Water no they dey there. You want to be like desert. So they possess drought resistance. They have corticals that, you know, their skin prevents them from losing water easily. Okay, their skin. All right. They are also fury. Okay, enabling them conserve water better. Okay, and also they easily migrate. If here don't too hot too much, they go migrate go another side where they a little bit cooler. So let's look at the final terrestrial habitat, which is burrows. Okay, and for the burrow, you know the meaning of burrow now, something where they enter inside ground. Okay, we have rabbits and earthworm as organisms you found in burrow. Rabbits, burrow, earthworm, burrow. Hope you know the benefits of the burrow of earthworm to the soil. You know the benefits of burrow of earthworm. With earthworm burrow, you know the benefits to the soil. Hope you know. Because Jamb they set and well. The benefit of earthworm burrow is they help to what? They help to conserve soil nutrients. That's number one. And number two, they help in what? Soil aeration. These two very important. Soil aeration and soil nutrient boost. All right, that's the positive effects of earthworm burrow. All right. So what is their adaptations? Their adaptation is that they have digging limb. Their limb enables them to what? To dig. Okay, and they have reduced eyesight. Based on say they know they too see, they feel they live inside where dark. Okay, because of reduced eyesight, they feel they live inside where dark. You know, say rabbits, for example, you know they too see where during the day. Now night they see pass, so they know they too see where. So that enables them to live. You know, rabbits know the day inside their burrow at night. Now that night where they see where, or they see better. Night they come out, they find food. So during the day they will day inside their burrow, inside their hole. They will day inside burrow there. They there because they know if you see where. Then if they stay for inside darkness, so they will stay there. When night come, they will come out to go find food. All right. So let's look at the only arboreal habitat we have here, which is habitat in the air. All right, treetop, that's the habitat. The treetop is an arboreal habitat. There you have animals like monkey, animals that spend most of their time, most of their lifetime, they spend it on air. Okay, they know they ground, they know they water. Now mainly air they do. All right, treetops, you have monkeys and birds as the organisms present. What are their adaptations to this particular habitat, treetop, arboreal? They have prehensile tail. You know that prehensile tail of a monkey that it can use to hold on to the tree. The prehensile tail is muscular, is elastic. Okay, it can resist strain. And it's very flexible. The tail is very flexible. That's why it's called prehensile tail. And bird possess wing that enables them to fly. Okay, you know monkeys, they hop on trees, and so on and so forth. So we are done with natural habitats. See you in the next class.